Okay.
Then I told you should be the moderator.
He's our guest host.
I'm the guest host. Then you put Melvin's face on it. I wear a Melvin mask. Do we need mic check? Alright, let's go. Who first? Beep 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 boop. Yeah, bro. No, 你要讲话 normally, right? Talk normally.
Yeah, they have a translator. One, two, three. Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Nuggets on the Go. Today we'll be discussing more in depth about new launches. Just now, Jesley, when she's coming to the studio, what happened?
What you mean what happened? I was late.
No, you saw Melvin drove out, right?
Yeah. So when I was coming in from the office, I mean his car, everyone know. I mean we all know lah. His car is very unique color. Then I saw him
blue.
drove out of the office. Then I'm like, didn't we have an appointment? Didn't he just say in the text that he went to the toilet, he'll be coming down in a jiffy or something?
Yeah. It was meant to be 4-person with Melvin today. But today we replace with another M, the tallest man in PLB.
Oi.
Marc Chan.
No, I know your name.
Then? What?
What is your official title now?
Vice President of Operations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So today we have a very, very special guest. Another M of the company, our VP of Operations, Mr. Marc Chan, the tallest man in PLB. Round of applause. He will be taking over, moderating and our guest host for
he's
today.
our host for today. So we have two replacement. One is we have a replacement for the host. Another replacement, I feel like cannot make it lah. It's supposed to be NOTG. N is for nugget.
It's
now we
fruits
need
on
to
the
change
go.
for FOTG.
No, this one is
Fruits on the go.
Nuggets on the go.
That's not
Like a fruit nugget. But anyway, there's been good price trend for Marc's weight. He's on a healthy journey. That's the reason why our producer knows that for our special guest, no nuggets, no fast food, no fried food. But we have a fruit platter.
He's very proud of his achievement. From Jan to June, how many kg do you lose?
I lost about 12 kg.
From what to what?
to June.
From what? From how many kg to
I was 102. Now I'm about 90. 90.
I see.
Yeah.
You're becoming underweight already.
No, I'm still not underweight. I'm just nice now. I'm still losing more weight.
You were overweight, or is it?
I was overweight.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Hey, BNI is just a... is it?
BMI.
BMI is just a number.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
actual number. Age is the most important one.
No, because if let's say, for example, you have a lot of muscles, right? Then generally wise, your BMI
but because his
will
engine is bigger, ma. So I feel like he needs to do a bit lesser, but he can burn a lot more energy, right?
Yep. You know, so actually so I lost like 12 kg, right? So and recently because I've been walking every day, like I'm trying to clock like I think about 10 to 12,000 steps. Because of the weight I've lost, I'm trying to replace back. So I actually wear like a 10 kg vest to walk to basically put back the same calorie burn as when I started. Yeah, so it maintains that level. Because actually you know that when you're lighter, you burn lesser calories when you walk. When you're heavier, you actually burn more.
No wonder, no matter how many steps I walk, it just doesn't lose that weight.
It's a bit different. Yeah. All right. So anyway, today, before this turns into a fitness podcast, let's dive into our Nuggets on the Go. So we're going to talk about new launches. More about new launches actually today. So there have been, I think, 2 other episodes where Rong and George were sharing quite a fair bit, as well as Sean, right? In the previous few episodes. So today we're going to dive a bit deeper. 4 key things we're going to talk about today. So first one is, are new launch pricing now too expensive in today's context, right? And then the second thing we're going to dive also deeper into, in what scenarios do we buy new launches or should we consider resale? Right. And the third one is, how do we ensure that the new launches that we purchase are going to be profitable? And the last one, I think, is analysis. So we love analysis here at PLB, right? So we're going to dive into stack facing, floor plans. How do we select one that has potential for good growth? All right. So yeah, so I think maybe we can, talk a little bit about this. Like, do you feel like new launches today? I mean, I guess this is one of the biggest questions. Like, we already know new launches are the new benchmark pricing when it comes to properties in Singapore. It's setting the new benchmark kind of price. So it's definitely the highest. So then when do we know that it's expensive, or when do you feel that, it's a point where we need to think like 3 times before we decide on this? Yeah.
Before we go to this question, shout out 7th of July, Suntec City Convention. We are going to have our new launch convention featuring 80 projects, 6 keynote speakers, sharing with you all the things that you need to know about new launches. So there's a link for you to join us. $7 for early bird tickets.
No, discount already. Now drop to maybe $6. They got like bundle deal. So if you come with your friends, it's going to be even cheaper.
Yeah, I think there's a 2, if let's say you want to come with your spouse or your partner, there's a 2-pack one. I think there's also a family bundle if I'm not wrong.
There's a 4-pack, there's a 6-pack. It's like a carnival like that.
Yeah, you can bring your friends along. Invite them along as well.
There's like a dilemma, right? So like, let's say for example, when you are buying investing journey, one spouse has a certain direction, the other spouse has a different direction. So it's good that, you bring the one that is not so enthusiastic along, and then so that y'all can walk out being equally enthusiastic.
So if let's say you're someone that is thinking about new launch like in the past 5 years, or in the next 5 years, like you're thinking about new launch, just thinking about it, then I think that you should be coming down to this new launch convention, because we are going to give away all these frameworks for you to follow. Because sometimes like there is a lot of opinions from everywhere, from agents, from developers, from all these advertisements that we are seeing every single day. Then how do you really go and follow what is the correct step, the correct framework? What's the winning formula to securing that good new launch project?
So Jesley will be sharing with us the 7-step process for selecting a new launch. This is framework specific, something that is like principle based that you can use in any market condition. And of course, we have Marc that will be sharing all about floor plan analysis. What kind of floor plans you should be avoiding, what kind of floor plans that potentially will have better exit audience, more profitable. I'll be covering a lot more on stack analysis, so we know how do we identify that specific stack in consideration the facing, the price disparity, to make sure that the entry price is a little bit more safe and specific for you. Of course, we also have Sean that will be talking about how to invest in new launch condo as a form of portfolio expansion. Our co-founder Melvin Lim will be sharing more on market price trends, the latest 2024 frameworks to select a winning new launch condo. And of course, George will be talking about the PLB disparity effect in terms of using the pricing strategy to identify safe selection for maximum appreciation potential. That's all for the plug.
Right. So new launch pricing, too expensive?
Okay. Maybe we just we
go around.
3 of us first. Okay. Jesley, do you think it is expensive?
Actually,
fair,
I think that it's very expensive.
You think it's very expensive?
I think that it's very expensive. And I think it's expensive, like no matter whether we are talking about OCR, RCR, or like the whole of Singapore is very expensive for new launches.
Okay.
But the sale is good. People seem to be able to afford it. And then like if let's say this is the benchmark that people has already set and lodged their caveat from then onwards, then this likely will be the price moving forwards. Even though we say it's expensive. I mean like if you've seen there is an article, Singapore is like number 1. Are we number 1 or number 2? Like the top most expensive city to live in Asia or something like that. So yeah, I guess this is one of the price index that they are looking at.
So new launch pricing, although it's expensive, right? But there is this very special thing in a sense. So when we buy properties, there's this thing called bank's valuation, right? Or the valuation where you can kind of take a loan on it, right? So it's usually pegged to like now it's 75% maximum loan based on the bank's valuation.
Yeah, that one's for resale.
For new launch pricing, right? It's very interesting because no matter kind of like what price the developer seems to launch it at, there is always not going to be COB. At least for now, or in our past, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years that we've seen it, right? So far, there hasn't been, which I think is it's quite a
flaw.
It's quite I don't know, so whether it's a flaw, whether it's a phenomenon kind of thing, like why is it like that?
New launch moderator for the pricing.
This is a free market. So basically, like, the market is supposed to decide the overall price movement. So I think like what is important for us as individual investors, right, is to make smart decisions, right, with our money. Where should we be parking it so that we feel that margin of safety, and with that margin of safety, we are then able to better have certainty that the pricing appreciation will come, right? So I think the question will be like, expensive is always the phrase in the entire real estate market. Whether is it new launch or whether is it resale. I've never heard of anybody let's say at that point of time, you want to buy a house. You will never say that.
Wow, cheap
so cheap one. You will never say, unless really when a major crisis happens, right, and really prices are dropping by 30%, which we have seen pre-cooling measures era, maybe at a short phase of time, 6 months, you think, wow, really, you are somebody, people's house is catching on fire and you are here to swoop in, wow, cheap, then you buy, right? But of course, with cooling measures nowadays, the market is very moderated. Diamond hands now, holding power is strong. You don't see that kind of price fluctuation where people need to throw off their properties because of foreclosure. They cannot pay their monthly installment. So I think that is very healthy overall. Okay, coming back, is it too expensive? I think what's more important is when people talk about expensive, right? The first question is, so high already the price. Can we still actually have a profit or not? I think like that is the big question when we are commenting whether it's expensive, right? And I think like my answer to me is this. To me, it doesn't really matter, right? What is the entry price per se, whether we think it's expensive or not. The key thing is whether do we have good certainty that there will be a new pricing benchmark for this specific project or unit that you want to invest in. And if we can see that the analysis can lead to that, then this will still be a safe buy. So for example, right, as we all know, new launches will definitely set the pricing benchmark because it is the newest.
Yes.
Just like you buy a brand new car, right? You cannot expect a brand new car to be cheaper than a resale car that has like shorter number of years to use. So it will definitely be the most expensive. And so from that angle, right, the key question will be when we are going for new launch, right, it is not a value investing approach. It is more like a momentum investing approach. So we want to know that, okay, now when you put it in, based on the momentum it's going to generate based on like how the new launch land prices are going to behave in the area, transformation of the area, overall dynamics on like the real estate market, right? Is there going to be good momentum that we can achieve in the next 3 to 5 years? If the answer is yes, then it is still safe to enter. If you don't see that kind of conclusion, right, then maybe unless you really, really want to stay in that specific location, you can opt for other options, right? So this I would say like more like from like a reframing kind of perspective to look at new launches.
Right.
Okay.
So when you mentioned momentum investing, right? Can you give some examples like to the audience? Like what are certain examples of momentum? How do you know that there's going to be momentum?
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, like maybe I just touch on like maybe like momentum versus like potential like like investing for value, right? So before real estate, of course, like there are a lot of people that use value investing to buy stocks. Correct? And value investing basically in summary is where like you're buying
low.
So buy low,
sell high.
Right? So like sometimes right, when you say buy low, sell high, because these two things are very absolute terms. And if you realize that you want to buy low, sell high, let's say in the real estate market or maybe like in the overall stock market, right? Over the last 10 years, you wouldn't have very, very good picks from there. Yeah, because buying low, there's a reason why it is like low, or like everything is sort of like overvalued because of how the monetary system works, printing of money, everything, or the QE, everything is inflated. So there is really no like sort of like a low entry per se, and you wait on the sidelines, hoping that there's a crisis, bump down the price and will come in. Either number one, you miss the boat, right? Second thing is I would say that value investing, right, will be you want to buy below intrinsic value. Like that's summary, right? Momentum investing is we can buy at any pricing as long as we can find that there is data set that shows that there will be momentum to push up. Then you can go ahead and invest. Of course, there is like two different scenarios. Good momentum versus like maybe like the GameStop kind of momentum where like, it is like a kind of wave that not backed by fundamentals kind of momentum. Right? So I think like coming back, it's the same thing for like new launches, right? Today, the key thing is new launch will always lead in terms of price trend. And I think like we cannot paint it as like an overall kind of segment where like, a new launch is overpriced because new launch and resale, right? They are actually linked together. When the gap opens up, right? The buying momentum will go to the resale side. And then you'll bump up the resale price.
This is the disparity gap you're talking about.
Right. So when the resale prices start to move up already, when it comes to be so close again, right? Then it makes sense, right, for the new launch price to go up already. So if you were to look at some history of new launches, for example, when we go back to Dairy Farm Residences, a project that TOP quite recently, right? Dairy Farm Residences, when it was launched at a point of time, let me see, how much was it?
Dairy Farm. That's where there's another development, right? Skywoods.
Meatwood.
No, not
Skywoods.
Meatwoods is the Hillier side, yeah. This one is that Skywoods is near the international school. I think it's is it German?
Yes.
I think it's a German international school. Yeah, that's where Dairy Farm is as well. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Dairy Farm, right? When that plot of land was launched and bidded for, I specifically remember I actually screenshot that article. I put it in one of the consult decks because that created like a new high in terms of OCR pricing. I think it was like, what was it?
1,005.
Yeah.
So like Dairy Farm, when it first launched in 2019, right, the sales wasn't that good. Right. So it was at like 1,005 plus, 1,006. And of course, at that point of time, it was relatively more expensive compared to the resale in the surrounding. And compared to other new launches, it's like, oh, okay, you could potentially consider slightly better location at a similar pricing. So the sales are not actually moving. But eventually, as the other new launches get sold out and new land bids start to come in, right? And then now the other locations that are similar to Dairy Farm, the developer already bought the land at a higher pricing, right? And then now the buying momentum goes back to Dairy Farm again. So what I'm trying to say is that like for new launches, right, it's very important, right, that we know that eventually the price will be correct because a new launch, the developer are taking 3 years to 4 years to sell out the property. So even if they start out the price wrongly, eventually the price momentum will catch up if the other parts of Singapore are also moving, right? The only thing is sometimes if let's say you really go into a piece of new launch, right, where it is like the record of the record in a certain district or a certain region, right? Okay, then there might not be so much momentum for it to catch up. So this one, you definitely have some safety.
The benchmark is now too high for everyone to catch up.
Yeah. So of course, like, let's say for example, we want to buy something that is premium, right? It must come with something that other projects wouldn't have, so that you can enjoy this kind of like emotional factor, right? Then, of course, like this kind of projects, right, will no longer be, I would say, like fully analysis based. It opens up to a very specific kind of target audience. Maybe they want certain form of like luxury, certain form of address that's associated, certain form of location, certain form of amenities, right? Or like certain brand association because of like the developer or like, you know, how the development is going to be created. So I think like overall, what I'm trying to say is that in summary wise, right, is that like for Dairy Farm residences, even though it started out as something that was very high, eventually, if now you look at Dairy Farm residences, right, it is doing at $1,900 per square feet in the TOP kind of phase. Why? Is because, for example, Botany, which is the project new, opposite, right, their average transaction price is about 2,000. Now the rest of units are balanced $2,100 per square feet. Correct. And there is an upcoming new land bid also, right? So as long as you have that kind of momentum, so you want to, there will be reassurance where like, you know, like pricing can still move up. But the question is it safe or not, right? Did the appreciation was a result of like good analysis, or is it because of luck that something else happened that you did not predict that it will happen, man? Yeah, so I think like that's what we will cover today to ensure that we don't pay for something that's overpriced.
So I was just looking at this one. So there are actually 3 projects, I think. Botany was the one that was launched quite recently. Then just now we were talking about Skywards, right? So Skywards, the pricing back in 2020, which was when
Dairy Farm
was launched, right? So this one was already a resale in the resale market, was going about 1,003 on average. Yeah. And then when Botany launched, it was 1,006.
1,000 to 1,005, 1,006.
So talk about this disparity. What do you all think? Like, so this is back then I can't remember. Let me see how old is this.
2020.
This was
TOP. 2016.
So it's about 8 years old. I mean, 8 years off the 99-year lease now. So it's about 91 years old versus a 99 fresh lease. Difference of 300 PSF. What do you all think about this?
So I give for example, right? If you think about it, right, it's like in 2019, what are the other launches that you can buy? Because if you were to compare with Skywards, actually it looks okay, right? I mean like 1,002 versus like 1,005 plus, right? So let's say for example at 2019, we go back to projects like Park Esta, which is in Eunos MRT station. Yeah. So Park Esta has been one of the most profitable projects as an investment, right, at that year. And if we were to look at 2019, so 2019, you can find units at Park Esta that is at 1,500 plus range. So if I were to ask you same thing, like, of course, you know, like,
right,
One is opposite Eunos MRT station, rest of central location, city fringe, green MRT line versus dairy farm residences. If you just compare it side by side, right, which one it will be safer? So that is the reason why at that point of time when it launched, because of this kind of price disparity, right, the market absorption will not be so high. But eventually, all these products will be cleared out. And then now this one becomes relatively attractive, cheap, relatively in angle, then it will start selling again. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I was looking at this, back then, the expected pipeline of new launches 2019, there's 60 new launches, there's 64 in this list. And that is a lot of new launches for 1 year.
Yeah, actually, every year we also have something that's expected 40 plus over new launches, right? But I think what's important is to look at
the size.
The number of units.
Yeah.
So we have quite a number of big projects that came out, like Florence Residence, there is a Treasure at Tampines, and all these are 1,000 over units that kind of add up to the supply as well.
This is the era of en bloc, where all the big HUDCs are all being replaced by all these mega developments. So in summary wise is that actually the overall, the smaller projects, right? Because the developer have 5 years to sell. So on the year of en bloc, right, they do not have to launch it at that moment in time. Versus, let's say for example, today you're a developer, you have 1,000 over units, you will try to launch as soon as possible because you want to maximize the time to sell your properties without getting ABSD.
Correct. I have clients that always tell me, all new launch will make money. Only new launch will make money. What do you think about it?
Clients tell you that?
Yeah, my clients say, I will never buy resale because the only way to make, because resale is something that people already have some sort of capital appreciation from.
They already
made the first wave of the first pot of gold. So they feel if I enter now, I won't have that pot of gold as compared to entering a new launch. Capital appreciation is guaranteed after 3. I confirm will make money after that.
Okay. I think so just now, you were talking about the momentum investing, right? So I think new launches have that kind of setup. But let's also look on the flip side. Let's say you look at resale, right? I think resale is more packed towards a little bit more on the traditional investing principles. Meaning to say, we're looking for disparity gaps. That means you don't want to buy at the highest. That disparity then happens, that allows you that gap so that you know that, okay, if I buy at this level, there's somebody that has set a new benchmark. There's a certain time where the gap will close. Right? Perhaps, for example, let's say the PSF for this new launch that dairy farm was 1,006. And then in 3-4 years time when it TOPs, people want to make a certain, upon the TOP effect, right? They want to sell at maybe 200-300 PSF. And then it'll be hit you at maybe 1,009 already. And the older projects will then ride on that same wave, right? Although the projects are older, perhaps there are other things that this project gives. For example, resale buyers usually want to move in quickly. Maybe it's their own stay home, right? They don't want to be renting for
completion
3-4 years. They also maybe don't have another alternative place they can stay, like their folks' place and all that. And they want to move in fast. It could also be if you move back even further into the resale era, let's say people want big units. You want a 4-bedder that's 1,500 square feet or 1,600 square feet, then there are only certain projects that might afford you that kind of size. But at the same time, still being able to find that disparity gap between the new launch in the area. There's a group of maybe investors who believe in this principle, the momentum investing. I want to be the first one that make the first wave of money. It's safer that way. I also heard this from some of my clients. And usually this group, I think, have already bought one round of new launch and they enjoyed the fruits of their investment already. Then now they believe in it.
Like yourself,
well, yeah, we bought a new launch, yeah.
So I have clients that are very specific to the new launch because new launch got preview. Right. Then got the after preview, the first wave of people who already bought it. Then subsequently there is usually a price increase. I have clients that refuse to enter the second wave. Just that same mindset. What? I must be the first one.
The first of the first.
You know, Chinese New Year, you go temple, you run, you must have the xiang. Must be the first one, then you get a blessing. Yeah, they have this kind of mentality.
Okay. Yeah, so they are concerned about paying that 1%, 2%,
the increment,
3% price increment, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think it's to look at the big picture. So okay, for example, right, resale and new launch, right? The buying behavior is very different, right? So let's say if we don't look at data analytics, generally, right, there is a 2 strong camps. People who want to buy resale, right, they will be very hard to be open to think that new launch will make sense.
Correct.
Same thing, people who truly believe in new launch, right, they will find that it is very weird why people want to buy resale. So sometimes it is also an effect of time, Why do I say that? The common question, right, or like the common kind of like, like conclusion that, okay, new launch is more profitable than resale, right, stems from that era, from 2014 onwards, all the way until 2018, where before like we had like a mini bull run before COVID, is that you realize that all the resale property, I would say a lot of the resale properties, overall, the price have stagnation. Prices are not really increasing, right? And at the same time, this period of time, if you were to buy a new launch, there are more new launch that are easily picked out that can be profitable in the 3 to 4 years time frame versus if you were to buy a resale between that 2016 to that sound like 2018 kind of era. But the reason is because it's because of effect of time. What do I mean by effect of time? At that point of time, right, we are going through that cooling measure series, and in 2013 third quarter is one of the deadliest cooling measure. What was it?
The changes in the TDSR that reduced to 55%.
It was the creation of total debt servicing ratio. All right. So before that, it was easy to get loans. After that, it was hard to get loan. Right. The buying behavior changed. The number of people who can participate in buying properties dramatically reduced. Right. Hence, whatever price benchmark that the resale properties have already set, right, is no longer representative. Right? Because you just imagine so many players cannot buy already. Right. They need to reach a new price equilibrium versus new launches that come out, right? The developers have already redesigned the sizing to ensure that the price quantum is going to be very digestible based on the new budget coming from the cooling measure. And hence, these are the properties that increase. And it will be very funny. So you will see a lot of examples where, for example, Commonwealth Towers versus Queens. Commonwealth Tower at that point of time was like 2014 launch. It was like $1,500 per square feet. Opposite, Queens is like $1,200 per square feet. And then you see 4 years later, right, that $1,500 become like $1,900 per square. That's profit. And then the Queens, right, is still the same at $1,200. And that's where you will see quite a number of case studies that reflect that. And that's where the conclusion came in that new launch is profitable, resale will be price tagged.
Is it because of the sizing? Like the size in the Queens is bigger. That's why like times the PSF, the overall quantum seems to be able to be on match with Commonwealth Towers instead.
Actually, one of the main thing, right, is because of the momentum. So we go back to the first thing about momentum. You see, if today we are all owning Queens, right, and there is no price increase, right, what happens is if you are the owner and you're the owner, we all have holding power. We don't have to sell our property, right? So when the transactions are not there, we are not challenging a new benchmark, right? Hence, there's no new benchmark that's created, right? Hence, nobody wants to continue to sell. However, right, a new launch project, right, the developers are creating that momentum in terms of the buying behavior, and people like that. So, for example, if today you have 500 units to sell, 1,000 units to sell, the first phase of selling, if the developer price their properties correctly, right, it will be the most attractive in the preview stage launch. Right? So maybe they sold off 20% of their projects and then they do a 1% price increase. Then the first batch of owners feel very happy. Right? The next people come in, then they clock another 10%, they increase by another 1%. So which means that just by holding onto the unit 3 years without doing anything, right, the developer is creating that sales momentum and the transaction because you keep increasing the pricing slowly, people buying, people feel safer, right? And people want something that is new. And the first batch of owners or people who buy earlier beforehand, right, they already have that profit margin that is built in. And this is created by the developers
which is what
itself.
Maybe add viewers on to what the client is always thinking, like, oh, new launch will always make money. Maybe because of like what you said. The developer themselves are having like small increment in terms of the pricing. Every round that they increase price, all the owners that have already bought the unit, they'll be like, oh, the developer helped me increase the price. Yay, valuation went up.
I think generally there are only two market segments, right, in Singapore, right, that is like 100%, almost 100% guarantee is profitable one.
What are they? Two segments.
That one is 100% profitable one.
What do you mean?
BTOs
and EC.
So it's a new launch. I don't deny that. Okay.
BTOs and EC.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing, like where in the world would you be able to own something that is brand new and then at a lower entry price than the resale? Then of course you will be profitable. So like BTOs are always launched at a discounted rate from the resale property.
Subsidized rate,
right? Yeah. So that's why it will be profitable. But whether overall is it a better investment today because of the opportunity cost involved from owning a BTO, for example, maybe 3 years, 4 years to construct, 5 years MOP, And if you are buying into the new prime
might not
district,
be 5 years,
that will
maybe
be
like
10 years
10,
MOP, right?
yes.
So it will be profitable, but the time that you can re-churn and reuse the equity that's being built up might take too much time.
Yeah, the number of cycles that you can have in the property market will be greatly reduced.
Correct.
Just like 15 years itself, divided by 3 is going to be like, you miss out 5 cycles in the private property market.
Yeah. And then I think on top of that, the new BTO categories is launching second half this year, right? The standard plus premium. There's going to be another different segregation.
Again?
Yeah, like because the MOP is longer. There's also a restriction in the sense, if you are doing the 1+1 strategy, that means you want to own one HDB, then buy one condo. Usually people won't buy the plus or the premium because you cannot rent out the entire flat. Yeah, so that strategy is, unless you choose to stay in the stay in the HDB and rent out the condo. But usually I think people look to upgrade. They want to improve their lifestyle and things like that. So they will move to the condo, then rent out HDB. Use the HDB as the
cash cow.
Yeah, the cash cow or the passive income that helps to sustain or reduce their monthly mortgage for the condo. Yeah, so I think with that in place, then today I was attending CBD class, right? The trainer was also sharing there's even going to be differentiation in their subsidy that you need to claw back when you sell. I think the first batch she tabulated was about, 6% or 7%. And then this new batch that's launching, the new 3 BTOs, is going to be higher. I think it's like 9% because the government is offering higher subsidy rate. Yeah. So I think all these things are going to come into play as well. Whether you want to buy a new launch, like even a BTO is actually a new launch. It's just that it's public housing. Yeah.
By the way, fun fact, right? CPD is just time that we need to clock in certain causes mandatory so we can renew our licenses.
It's basically to keep ourselves up to date on certain new change in policies. It's called what? A continual professional development.
PD.
Yeah.
I already know the short form.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. All right. It's that time of the year we need to clock the CPDL. Yeah. Anyway, just now also on Jesley's point, right? On the first wave of buyers. I remember back in 2018, because 2018 there was a big cooling measure. You all remember what is it?
2018.
July 2018.
Lower of the LTV from 80 to 75%.
Yeah. Then there was this development what's the date? I forgot the date. But basically people were like rushing to the flat.
There was a deadline.
Yeah, Sterling,
Park Colonial,
and Riverfront, right? Then I heard Park Colonial got people fighting inside. I don't know.
Yeah, all go down, run down before midnight with their checkbook or something like that.
Yeah, so if you all are new to the new launch space, if you look at past transactions of these 3 developments, there's this one night that suddenly there were like loads of units that moved off the shelf. Right?
Thanks to the government. Yep.
Yeah, but then on the other flip side, right, there's also another thing that happened. In Serangoon, there's this development called Affinity.
Okay.
So Affinity, right, I was looking at it. It launched in June 2018, before the cooling measure happened. So it launched, transaction prices were about 1,600 averaging. But because of this July cooling measure, the developer decided to lower the price of the second wave. Yeah, I think maybe because it's to cushion the impact of this new cooling measure as well. So the second batch actually bought lower than the first batch.
Oh man.
Yeah. So we heard some buyers, obviously they're not happy lah. Like, why do you do that? It was a lowering of about, I had some buyers that went to buy at this time. I think it was about 7 or 8%. They decreased and then it slowly reduced it like to 5 and so on and so forth. Yeah, so I think these are, it's not 100% that you are the first one of the first wave. You get the best price. Sometimes certain circumstances might cause things to change as well.
Yeah. So I think how do we determine that, right? So number one, this should be able to tell number one, new launch is not a guaranteed profitability, because we have seen equal number of projects in new launch that didn't appreciate, same as resale properties. And of course, like what Marc mentioned, right, is how do we know developers will reduce price now after you have buy-in? Is there a certainty that we are able to
I was thinking like you need to look out for the news article. So if let's say the sale, like during the preview, maybe the sale only less than 20%, then would that be the indication where the next wave maybe you might drop price, because they need to sell their unit faster,
Yeah. Anyway, just to jump back to that news, right? Just now we were talking about that match stampede rush of people going to buy, right? So because the government released that piece of news in the late afternoon, I think it was like 4 or 5 p.m.
Yeah, they learned their lesson after
they learned their lesson after that. So now you see all the cooling measure, right? I don't know, purposely 2359 or what, purposely launch so that when you hear the news, you really cannot take any action already. Yeah, you just wait for it to happen. Yeah, once it crosses to 12 a.m.
Yeah. I think that is very good actually.
So we don't need to be so busy within that like 3 or how many hours, like 6 to 7 hours. Suddenly so many checkbook need to receive. The latest coding measure, I think it's on September last year, is the change of the 15 months wait out. They really announced it, I think 11 p.m. plus. Then our chat group like suddenly, hey, what's this? Remember?
That was
so they learned their lesson already.
Yeah, for private property owners who are selling their condo units or private properties and who want to move back to HDB, then now there's a 15-month wait out period. But there's a little bit of a discount in a sense if you're a senior, maybe not senior citizen. As long as you're above 55 lah. 55 like not senior citizen yet. Then if you buy 4 room or smaller, then you are like waived from this rule lah. Yeah. Okay.
So one of the, I think, indicators, right, to know whether developers will drop pricing, right, is to understand very well how much the land was being acquired and how much the break-even price of the developer and how much the overall average price that was launched.
Basically, the profit margin, right?
Yes. Yeah. So usually, right, what happens is that if you were to notice a trend, right, of projects is that like when developers launch at very close to their break-even pricing, you will know that your entry is safe because they cannot really lower anymore already.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It's like, that's already my land price. This is my base price already.
Yeah. So when it is very close to the break-even price, like almost no profit margin, right? You will know that this is one of the safest bet. If let's say, for example, now you have like 3 projects that you're shortlisted and then you're thinking, okay, you are buying for investment, you are open to location. So which 3 should we go to? Then this is one indicator that we can actually cross-reference and check. If the developer launched a lot of margin and if the launch didn't do as well as expected, then you will know 10% sales, 15% sales. It is in time to come that definitely there will be price adjustment.
Because they have the buffer to reduce a bit to let more units go.
But that's also the reason why that there are also other kind of like entry analysis, right, that we can sort of like buffer this reduction. For example, we learn how to choose more value price stacks, more value price flaw, so that even when there's an overall price reduction, right, you're being cushioned. But okay, I've never really recommended anything that got price reduction before. So but at least we know that there are counter checks that we can put in place to ensure like a safety margin for our clients that entrusted, like the recommendation from us.
Yeah. So this, what Rong is, I think, saying is like across projects, one other safety net you can use is to compare like profit margin wise, right? Like from their base price plus all the other costs, construction, marketing and all that, to the price that they sell. How much margin does the developer have to like play with, right, to adjust? And in a more micro sense, even in that same development, you can also compare because certain stacks have more premium facing, the price will be more premium versus some that are more normal facing, like maybe pool facing versus like, I don't know, unblocked view facing.
Yeah, remember Rong has a saying, it's called cheapest is not the best, right? Something like that. Like it doesn't mean that it's cheapest means that you will have the highest profit margin depending on like what kind of exit audience that this particular stack or this particular floor plan is attracting.
Yeah, I think like overall, like there's a reason why it's cheap, right? Because there are certain things that you need to accept for it to be cheap, right? So, and if let's say you are just going for purely cheap, what it means is that like your exit audience might be very limited because they cannot like accept this. So for example, sometimes there are like launches because when you're buying a new launch, right, you're buying from like a 2D kind of model, you're seeing not the actual unit, but you need to visualize, okay, your unit at a slightly different layout, you plug into that tower, what do it roughly look like? And sometimes when you don't see the site model correctly, right, you don't think so much of floor level, you happen to find a unit where you open your doors, it's like you see the function room. You open your door, you see the multi-story car park.
And then, I actually have a client that I met at Topiary.
Yeah.
So what they wanted when they went for the selection, right, was that they wanted this particular level at level 13, I think, because right outside is the sky terrace. Like, usually the tall building, like halfway through there is a sky terrace for a common facility, some sort. They wanted that. But for some reason, they got the level wrong. They got one level lower.
Okay.
So that don't have that access.
Okay.
But after that, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Because a lot of people walk on that level, right?
Because a lot of people walk past. So the neighbor upstairs was telling them like, oh, lucky you all never buy. Actually, really a lot of people walk in and out and in and out. There's no privacy at all.
Actually, it depends on also like what is the function of the sky terrace. Like, so sometimes that sky terrace, right, offers that kind of view that a lot of units don't have one. Then you will know that, okay, a lot of people will go. But let's say, for example, like the sky terrace, right, if this is on a like a 30, 40 story building, and the sky terrace view is very similar to views that you can get in the unit itself, then I would think that, okay, the sky terrace, right, will have very little usage. So I think it's also like project dependent.
Yeah. I think that then determines the level of foot traffic that's kind of going past that level or the area of the development.
But sometimes developers nowadays are also quite smart, right? So sometimes the roof, the kind of like terrace level, right, there are no units. And then they use it to replace like level 14, level 24.
Skip one unit.
Yeah, so that like, okay, they all like, they label their tower so that they don't have like the 4 number.
You know what, in Malaysia, the new launches always have 13A. If I'm not wrong, correct?
Why?
You
I
got
don't know leh.
You got go Malaysia and then see that building before. A lot of them is, there's no 14, there is no 4. It's called 3A. It can correct me if I'm wrong. Correct or not?
So,
correct,
so 13, then 13A,
there is no
then
4
15.
Let's use the A to replace the 4.
3A.
Oh,
5, 6, 7, 8. You need to go and notice.
They also don't have 14 level. Then you want
There is no
13A.
14. So even the unit number. Yeah, I booked Airbnb before. So unit number in Malaysia, in KL. Let's say it's level 4. There's no level 4. It's called 03A dash. Let's say it's called 24. Also don't have 4. It's 23B. They just replace it with some other letter. That's how particular they are.
But actually currently right now, let's say in the market right now, do you all see a lot of buyers have objection over like having like, oh, you're on level 4, your unit number has a 4, etc.?
These days, there will still be some who have some maybe superstitious or maybe some certain beliefs
Feng shui.
they prefer not to have these numbers. Or sometimes, right, like sometimes when I'm advising my client, like if I have a choice between number 4 and number 6, and maybe price is like barely difference, like a very small difference, like maybe a few $1,000s. Usually my advice to the client is let's pick number 6. Just so that maybe they are not the ones that were infected, but we're thinking about the exit in mind. That means next time when I exit,
Other
the
people
next
might
buyer,
have
we don't know whether who this person is, right? Yeah, they might have this roadblock in their mind. Yeah, so we rather reduce that kind of friction. Yeah, so that
But if you don't have option,
if you don't have option, then I think we have to analyze, I guess, on the whole. Like, if you really want that stack and that's the only one, and relatively comparing to the next stack that's available, right? Maybe the premium is already, it doesn't justify, like there's too much premium, the value doesn't justify, then perhaps our advice there, I think we can still take this one. Yeah.
So you based on your experience, right? If let's say unit number in new launch, gets sold already, then after TOP, they move in already, they get into the resale market. Is it really more difficult to exit?
Actually, I think it's okay one.
It's okay, right?
Actually, as long as number 1, right, that unit overall, right, has is a value entry, right? Overall, like there are the no strong negative attributes, and if it is just a floor level, I have helped a lot of my clients.
Secure.
We also buy a level 4, not because we want to. It's because like maybe at a point of time that we are purchasing, right, this is really the most value purchase. Yep. The next one, right, is not as value, meaning that the profit margin might not be so good. Right, so we are okay to accept it.
Are you saying that the developer launched number 4 cheaper or what?
Oh no, like because usually because analysis is one side lah. Of course, the other thing is when is your queue?
Right.
When is your queue when you are available to select this property, right? And a lot of times the mid floor, if you are like the first batch of people that can purchase, right, the mid floor will really clear out first. Right?
Correct.
Why?
6, 7, 8 or something like that.
People avoid the higher floor ones first because it has a premium.
Correct.
People generally not buy the lower floors first because of like, importantly actually is more of what you face lah. Something that's very interesting that when I always tell people is when you are buying condos, actually the floor level, right, it's not as important as compared to, let's say, for HDB. To me, for a condo, right, the facing is more important. So sometimes a lower floor facing is more valuable to me than a higher floor facing.
I agree with you on this. Let's say we have a normal condo, let's say maybe 18 stories, something like that. If let's say I have a choice to pick level 10 or level 3, right? Actually, I'll pick number 3. Because actually at level 10, right, you look up, right, it's still your neighbor. I say this in the home tour sometimes for the units that we are selling. Then at level 10, right, you look down, it's still your neighbor. You look up, it's your neighbor. You look down, it's your neighbor. Because you're not on the level 18 or level 17. At least at level 17, you can see sky. Right, 80% is the sky. You can still enjoy the scenery. So I rather pick a lower level. So at least I see got facility, 有花有草, got 树, you know. It's still nicer than like level 10. you look up, got nothing, you look down, so your neighbor.
So the day I was doing the new launch tour bus, sorry, not new launch tour, new launch banter about Sora. So, Sora is facing the lake, right? The Jurong lake.
80% lake view.
80% lake view. So imagine you are buying one of these lake view units, right? Will you all buy, we had this discussion, I think I was asking, who was with me on the shoot? I suddenly lost track. Okay, but anyway, the question was, which floor will you all select if you are buying a lake view? Will you buy the super high floor, like top floor? Will you buy the mid or will you buy the low? And why?
I got my answer. I mean, since you are talking about that, I will go and analyze the tree first. The tree that they plant outside the Sora.
Okay, tree as in the tree.
If let's say it's a rain tree, you know how you all got drive past Yuanqing.
So we need to be...
The tree can be like level 10, that kind. So I must analyze the tree.
So you're a botanist also.
I must make sure the level that I am going in. I don't want to pay the highest for sure. I don't want to pay the premium. I got no money. I will pay above like a tree top.
So you clear the tree line. So
correct,
you look out your balcony.
No, but I must analyze because like it's a new launch, right? So I won't see the tree. But I must see what kind of tree they plant first.
What if the tree grows?
Yeah, that's why I must.
So you plan the future.
I must predict the how big the tree is going to grow. Like how many cm will it cover two level? Then I get above it. Then that's the next stop already. Then I will have unblocked view.
Actually, this is a very good analysis. So if you realize that, you can see the same common trend, right, along the East Coast stretch.
Correct.
Developments that are sea facing. There is a difference when you are high enough and you can actually get the sea view, and the super high floor that you get like the entire water body, versus that you never clear the tree line, right? So what you are getting, right, it's not, you are sea view facing, but you don't get to see the sea. You get like the landscaping, you get like maybe like the internal facing unit. So the price premium is different, right?
I ask you, level 8 consider high or not?
It depends on the project.
Okay, the project, okay, maybe level 12 only, total.
Okay, 12. And then like what are you seeing? I think that's more important.
No, what I'm trying to say is that Singapore, the range tree really can go very high. I have units where level 8 and level 10, right? It's still covered.
Wow.
We're still under the range tree.
Those are heritage trees.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like cannot chop off one.
Maybe
it's
1965.
It's a heritage kind. Yeah, okay. So trees are quite important.
So coming back to the question, right? I will not have a specific answer, right, to know whether I should be buying very high floor, mid floor, or low floor. Usually what I will analyze, right, is number one, where's the level that I will clear for trees. Views? If let's say I'm external facing. Internal facing, I want to make sure that I am not being blocked by car parks, gyms, function rooms, internal facilities that will compromise privacy by a lot, because this will be one of the objections that come in. Or like, for example, you are external facing, then you happen to see landed property that is beside, but you are seeing not the front of landed property, you are seeing the back of the landed property, where people the yard area, right? Okay. So all this will be like a con, especially it depends on like how close you are to it, right? So the key thing to me is always like that. When the price disparity is very, very small, then I will buy the highest that I can buy.
Of course.
If the price jump, right, is quite a lot, like 20k per level, then I will go for like a value option where like, okay, I estimate the trend line to be here. I give myself some buffer to ensure that I have that safety of failure rate, right? And like the trees will grow, right? Then this will be the unit that I want to purchase.
Okay. So on this same note, right, on the basically like floor level selection, so there are actually three kinds that I personally encountered before. So the first kind of price increase, right, is progressive one. That means every level is a similar increase. Like every level increased by 10k or increased by 10k.
Okay,
all the
consistent
way. Consistent one. The second type, right, I saw that time when I was bringing a buyer to buy Sterling residences is, I can't remember exactly, but they segmented into three types. Level, like the first 1/3, right? Maybe level 1 to 10.
I help you categorize. Economy, business, and first class.
Yeah, something like that. So got difference one. The jump is not progressive one. Like the first 30% is like maybe 10k increment. The second 30%, every floor is 20,000. Then if you want the first class seats, first class views, then it was, I think, like 30,000 per floor. Right? So and then there's another third kind, which I saw in Woodley, is one whole stack, all same price one. Right? So,
right.
You see before, right? Yeah. So sometimes our clients like to ask us, so which floors should I select? So the question is, I think we need to look at these three kinds of what kind of pricing strategy is the developer using. Then we can bring like Rong strategy, like where do you find value? Like if let's say I'm on the business class one, the second tier, second chunk of it, right? But I'm the highest of it. versus I buy the next one, which will cross into the increment by 30,000 already. Then which one should you buy? Right. So like this kind of micro details, I think it will only we can only analyze when we really have that launch pricing. Then we also study, of course, taking into account all these trees, kind of views that you want, whether you want to see the ship, like if you're staying at seaside residences, or you want to see the ship, or you want to see the trees and the ship and the water body and the sky, then there's different tiers, right? Like what kind of views do you want? Right.
What kind of sandwich views like that?
Yeah.
How many tiers? But I think this is very good sharing. So I think like overall wise, right, you see a different price jump in the different floor. Usually these are for like really high floor developments, 30th story and above. Then you will have segmentized kind of price increase. What we call, right, the one pricing for the same stack is usually when it's a relaunch scenario. Means the development already did not do well already. And they want to create, so you already launched a development. Supposingly, you're supposed to have the most interest during launch because you have the most competition. You gather everybody within a 1.5 weeks kind of period. Everybody squeeze. And if the result is that the launch is not good, you need to create another form of hype, right? So the other secondary form of hype is that like you need to give something very crazy one, which is like that. What I call like one price.
I think all 12 floors were same price.
Yeah. So meaning that if today you're able to come in and buy one of the highest level at the same price, then you will have better margin.
I would be so sad if I have to like settle for the lower one yet pay the same price. But my heart cannot.
I think this is like a I don't know whether it's right to call it like a reverse FOMO effect. Like in a sense, like what maybe some of the agents or the salespeople will tell you is that, oh, now everything's same price, right? Let's go in, because immediately, let's say you buy the top floor, you straight away
that's the benchmark.
Are already making an invisible profit, because once the first floor guy transacts at the same price as you immediately profit already. Yeah, so they are using a little bit of this, I don't know what term to call it, I just call it the reverse FOMO. Yeah, to buy like maybe even on the top floor. Let's say top floor, they worry the ceiling, leaks or it's hotter.
Too hot, etc.
Yeah, they might go for the second floor. So we've seen this happen before. Yeah, and it usually is true. It's a relaunch. Yeah,
definitely it will be a relaunch. Like if not, like what we call like sometimes in a new launch segment, right, is that like it's not a balloting scenario. They change it to what we call like placement. Meaning that they realize the number of checks they collected, right, compared to the number of units that are available is really huge difference. And so like instead of doing very awkward doing balloting, right?
Because there's no hype, weird.
So right, we call it placement. So okay, you just choose what unit that you want.
I'll let you the wrong price.
If let's say the unit there is no competition,
you take it.
You take. If let's say the unit, let's say okay, we all choose the same unit. And then what happens is that then we will ballot, see which one of us get it.
Okay. So only
ballot based on the unit.
Only ballot based on the unit that we choose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Smart, they just need to ballot.
Because that's how you can maximize the sales rate.
Correct.
Yeah, like a mini auction for that particular unit only.
So it's like last time the primary school, it's not primary school, like secondary school selection. Need to put like number 1 to 8. Then if you cannot get to number 1, then you get to number 2. Something like that, right?
Yes. Okay. Where are we at?
We were talking about, I think we're analysing the floor levels already. Yeah, so it's a bit part of our analysis on stack facing, floor plans.
Actually, there was like one last part is this, right? I think like when it comes to that kind of views, what kind of floor levels, right? I think one very important question is also like, what is the purpose of like this purchase, right? So I always classify there are like two main routes. If today you are buying for investment, very clear cut one, you want to buy based on purely
value
analytics, right? So you want to get the best value buy, reduce number of cons, easy to exit, get a value buy, your margin is more secured, right? And you don't really need the entire project to move up in pricing. You can really get momentum from the internal transactions to give you that margin. So this one is the investment strategy route. People who are buying like a balanced route, meaning that actually they want to make sure that the property can increase in pricing, but they're still buying for own sale. So you have a lot of dilemma because your heart will tell you that, of course, I want to have a better view.
Yeah, but these are all the leftovers. Then should I still go in or not? Yeah.
So then I think like that balanced approach, we will still can use data analytics and be a little bit emotional about things because you want to be happy when you're staying inside.
Yes.
And that last category, right, is what I call like the ballers. Today they are here to spend money. They are not seeing this as an investment. The portfolio is just, this is such a small amount of their net worth, right? That you just want to buy exactly what you like. And these are the people that you will realize that sometimes in a new launch product, how come suddenly all the level 30 to level 39, nobody buy. Then suddenly you got one baller straight away go in to buy the level 40 one because they just want to buy the top floor, the best view, etc.
They know what they want in that sense.
Yeah. So I think like this one is okay. If like, for example, today, if I say I'm a baller already, which I'm not, right, I will definitely
You're
go for this
definitely
kind
not
of.
baller. You are a value
Really?
buy. You are a dollar value.
Yeah, I always tell like a lot of my friends and all that. I have 2 lists of projects that I will invest in and projects that I love to stay. And these 2 projects are not.
They are mutually exclusive one.
Yeah.
They are quite mutually exclusive. So when I feel that I reached the baller stage already, I will go and buy those that I really love to. I know that the margin of improvement in terms of price appreciation not really there. But I just love the project. I love the facade.
Yes.
I love the location.
Architecture and whatnot.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I
Just remember, right? You know, when I first met you, you shared this story about the facing one. I think it was the Pasir Ris project.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to share everybody? Yeah, like why do you recommend your client? They bought the what?
Okay,
so
so
you share the story. Yeah. I think that was very interesting.
can we take a toilet break?
You can pause, not live, eh?
No, thank you. I've been holding in for half an hour already.
Can no problem.
water I drink.
I drank my Coke. Sorry.
I wasn't expecting that.
Like, hey, I want to share a story.
I think back in 2018, when we first met, right? So like I was sharing about like how do you select a good investment based on like the different stack facing. Right? And it is based on the same thing called like the price disparity framework. Is that generally you know that developers are going to price different facing at a different price premium. We all know what is the best facing one. But when it comes to the facing plus they are all at different pricing, then it becomes hard to know which one was going to be a safer kind of entry price. And the thing is, same floor plan, same sizing, the facing could give you a 10 to 15% price difference. Yeah. And so like, depending on for example, expressway, facing another HDB, facing another private and facing internal pool view, right? Then you want to know that this price disparity, right? Whether it will get the same kind of impact during the resale market. You see in the new launch, right? Basically when you're buying, especially on the first day of launch, you as a buyer do not know any of the pricing. You are supposed to ask based on the units they want, then developers will give you like the pricing. You can ask like 5 units at one go. But because of our experience, then we will ask specifically based on like specific stacks to know what is the price disparity. Then we already know, okay, yeah, this is the value stack, this is the value floor, and then we will know how to zoom into the right units to target, right? So coming back, is that basically, if let's say today, expressway facing, pool view facing a private property, facing a HDB, how will you choose? Which one is your priority?
Cycling back to what we're talking about earlier, I think first we need to decide what type of property, own stay or investment. Then after that, then we talk about like facing. Because if it's own stay, then of course you have all those emotional or like certain ones.
Okay, let's say investment.
Right? Pure investment.
How will you choose?
Okay. So I think pure investment, let's say it's 1,000 unit development, right? Actually, it's quite overwhelming. Like if there are like maybe like 50% of development is 3-beders and you're going to buy a 3-bedder today, that means you're going to analyze 500 units. Right. So how do we, like some of the questions we'll think about is how do I then choose a few units? But these choose units that we select, right, are very strategic one. That means we select because we want to know the price of this versus something else. And then by just doing that small comparison, I roughly will know, like what you mentioned, which one is value buy, which one is just for purely the ballers one. Right? Like the price is like, I don't know, 20-30% above the rest one. Then that one, maybe for investment, let's put it aside, KIV. If I have a buyer who is looking for own stay, maybe I'll recommend that because best views or whatever. Then I'll come back to look at what I have and then we analyze based on price, facing, floor level, even the amenities that are beside. Right? Like if there's a barbecue pit beside this stack, that's why it is 10% cheaper than the other one. Then how does that affect? Whether it's low floor near the barbecue pit or high floor. Right? Got clients ask me before, Marc, if the barbecue pit here, if I buy 16th floor versus the second floor, 16th floor can smell or not? So my answer is
based on our wind direction analysis.
So we need to be quite aware of few hats, right? We need to be like botanists. We need to test wind. I don't know what's the person who does this thing called. Yeah, so I mean, coming back, I think I was just to summarize this part, right, is that really strategically selecting units just to pull out data to analyze, I think is also part of what we do so that we can help our clients select the most value buy based on certain wants, certain needs, certain objectives also. Yeah, that's what I would do.
So what is your choice?
What's my choice? Which facing?
Oh yeah, Jesley, what is your choice?
Okay, this is assuming that I don't know any of the prices yet, right? I don't know like your expressway, how much price is it? Face HDB, what's the price? Internal facing, what's the price? Face condo, I don't know what's the pricing. Based on my own personal preference and of course all the buildings all the viewings that we have conducted, all the transaction and all the feedbacks that we have garnered from all the buyers, seems like the internal facing, like within the condo itself, seems to always be the safest. So you're just blocked out from any other traffic junction or expressway, whatnot. You're faced away. Like any negative one will not impact you at all because safest lah. There's nothing else that you can.
Yeah, I think there's also a less risk of change happening within the development as compared to like externally. Let's say you face a blank patch of field now, but maybe what's going to happen, right? Is it reserve site? Is it slated for something else? Or it might change also because where's the master plan? Yeah.
For me, value buy, it's internal facing. I feel it's the safest bet. Because if not, I will need to go and see what is the distance between the HDB, whether there is any road in between, and what is the distance across, and what am I seeing? Is there any traffic junction? And then the other most important factor would be the proximity to the site gate. Because sometimes the project is 1,000 over units, right? Yeah, it can be quite difficult to walk from one end to one end. I want to know how to get out ASAP, how to walk to the MRT as soon as possible. So this two will be my priority. Okay, so what's the solution? Okay,
so if let's say today I'm just buying as a consumer, not looking at pricing, right? I will definitely have some preference, right? So for me, this is my personal preference. I will prefer pool, then after that private property facing, then HDB facing, assuming that let's say like the distance to it is the same,
right?
Similar. Then lastly, I will choose like the expressway facing. But that one is for myself.
Personal.
Yeah. There are some specific buyer audience that like specifically expressway facing because
it's unblocked. The distance is like 10 lane. It can be quite a good view actually sometimes.
Yeah. If pricing is the same, this will how I choose. And this will be a lot of how consumers will be choosing actually. They usually don't come in and say like, oh, what is the price difference between the different stacks? It will be more like, okay, I think I have a preference. I like the pool view one more. How much is it? I can afford it. Okay, let's buy. Right. So we are trying to input and inject to the data analytics in between to ensure that you buy what you like, but at the same time, we understand that you are also buying with a margin of safety, right? With all these data analytics. So we try to mesh your preferences.
Yeah, I think at PLB, so just now I was asking, like if it's own stay, usually we apply this 50-50 framework, meaning that 50% is what do you want, like in terms of needs and wants, you want pool view and all that, right? Then the other side, usually we will try and balance it out with all our investment analysis, numbers, disparity and all that. Yeah, but if it's pure investment, then I think it doesn't really matter where you face. It's really the numbers will do the talking. Yeah.
So specifically for that project that we mentioned, right? It was in Pasir Ris, and then we look at people who are buying the different facing at the same launch time, and then 4 years after TOP, everybody sell, right? We see and compare what's the profit margin. For that specific case study, the conclusion was the pool view facing one has the lowest
growth.
Has the lowest price growth.
Okay. So ROI is the worst.
It's the worst.
Okay. But still got earn, it's just lesser.
Yes.
Okay.
Or it's profitable.
Okay.
All right. And expressway facing started as one of the lowest pricing, but they are not the most profitable. So this is what I mean by cheap doesn't mean that it is good. And for that particular project, right, the private property and the HDB facing one has the best and similar performance. But of course, you cannot. The conclusion is not like, oh, like pool view facing cannot buy, we should buy outside facing, etc. The key thing is to understand that number one, there is a price disparity. Different projects will have different price disparity. So the outcome and conclusion will be different. What we're trying to see is that, is it worth for that price disparity to go for a better facing? And that will be for us to determine what is a little bit more safer. Usually I would say that the other thing to think about is that like, try not to be the benchmark in the project. Unless you have something that is so special, because I usually like to use the benchmark to know and project what is my potential, almost guaranteed kind of profit rate. Yeah.
Right. You're saying like because this benchmark is going to be the highest PSF for that project itself when somebody buys it already,
so for example, right, let's say today we're in the 40-story floor building. I buy the mid-floor one. I know that the top floor people will buy $250 per square feet higher than me, or $3 per square feet. I know that easily when I TOP already, my valuation will match the higher PSF. But of course, the people who have bought the $250 per square feet higher, they wouldn't exit at the same pricing, but they will want to ask for a higher pricing. And that's the reason why people will still come and buy my unit, even though they know that, hey, last time the top floor people bought at this kind of pricing, I'm selling at a similar pricing. However, it's very different from, for example, when you just purely talk about facing difference, like pool facing, private property facing. If your margin and the disparity is so huge, 15%, 20%, right? When it comes to the resale market, right, it is very obvious one because people will go and see, oh, this is the pool facing, it looks like this. It is asking 20% higher than the other facing. They will say, maybe I like the pool view, but not worth for me to pay 20% more. Because in resale market, pricing is transparent. Correct. You know what is transacted. You know what is available in the market. You can go and visit different units and you know what's asking. But in the new launch context, right, because the pricing is to a certain extent like a blind box.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to do shortcut analysis, right, that is how, like developers maximize the sales. And then we as consumer, we need to understand, right, what is the best strategy forward. But if you want to know more, join us at the new launch convention. I'm covering this segment on the stack analysis.
I think the other thing that usually we're looking at, so we talk about stack facing, floor level already. I guess it's the floor plan type, right? So yes. I'll be doing a sharing segment on that on 7th of July at New Launch Convention. Yeah, so we're going to talk about like floor plans. Doesn't mean big is good. Efficiency, how like study rooms are laid out, right? Like you all know now it's quite a trend because after COVID, everybody wants to have a study, right? Like having a proper study versus like a study that's there but like not there.
What do you mean like there but not there?
Like there but not there, like okay, I don't know
so
whether I can show this.
Is it there or is it not there?
So you see on a floor plan, it will say study, but you don't see there's a room. It's just like an allocation along the wall.
It's a corner by the dining.
Yeah, something like that. Right. So there are some examples which I have also kind of put in to my sharing. So like for example, this one right here, 3+ study. Study. You see the word study?
Right.
And it's like Jesley mentioned, it's beside the dining.
It's usually beside the dining.
I think it's a little bit tough to enclose this space. Yeah, so I mean, these kind of study areas are okay if you're okay with open concept, but if let's say you are really going to be using it for work, taking virtual meetings, Google Meet, Zoom, then probably something like that might be more usable. Yeah, then study room also has like, we're going to dive a bit even deeper. Like, so this one has a window. So we see the white little bar here among the black solid border, right? It means there's a window in the study. So actually this size of a study, right? If you look compared to the bedroom, it's almost similar. So this almost feels like a 4-bedder already, although it's a 3+ study. Yeah, so if these two units were priced at the same, technically if you look at the square footage, it's the same, right? So we're having this and this, which one would then have a better kind of exit audience? Yeah, which one has better utilization of space as well? Yeah, so things like that, I think we're going to dive a bit deeper. I mean, to analyze even more things about floor plans.
So basically, is that like when you look at the brochure, how the developer tell you what bedroom type is it? It's not as important as when you are reselling the resale market, right?
The efficiency of...
Will the buyers think how many bedrooms is it? Will this be considered a bedroom? Will this be considered like a half bedroom? Or will this actually just be considered part of your living dining zone? So that makes a difference in terms of exit audience as well as appreciation potential.
Yep. And yeah, probably I think we also want to understand more about different kinds of floor plan layouts in a sense, like I mean the most common one we hear these days is the dumbbell versus the more traditional layout. Yeah, so we're going to, I think these are like it matters also whether you are living there or is it for investment, because these might create different avenues of how you rent out the space. So the dumbbell, like this one right over here, is a 2+ study. So if you look at the pink boxes right on the left, what you can potentially do is on the left hand side, it is almost like a unit of its own. It has its own toilet, it has its own study even, and a bedroom, compared to the master, which is an ensuite. So you can technically rent out to 2 different tenants. And one of the things I think one of our teammates shared with me, like Alexa was saying, she's very sensitive to noise. So she loves this because the walls are not touching the other wall. So if you have 2 different, like people living in the space, you have more privacy in that sense. Yeah. So I think floor plans are another key thing that will impact your potential growth, potential exit as well. Yeah. Of new launches. But just now I think you mentioned something about balloting, right? So sometimes I think floor plans wise, it also boils down to when you kind of enter the project, because what's available and what's your queue number. Sometimes the good ones usually might sell out faster. It might leave you with some, not say that's not good, it's just that maybe compared to the other one, it has certain differences.
I think floor plan analysis is to be combined with the price disparity as well. So like sometimes, like you are looking at maybe a better layout, but it has a strong price premium. So now is it worth it again to enter this? Or is it better to top up a little bit to go to another category? Like for example, use the 3-bedroom plus study, right? I will see what's the price difference compared to the actual 4-bedder. And I'll make a decision. If the gap is very, very close, I will go for the actual floor, because if you realize that study that you showed just now, right, the windows is 1/3 of the typical window size. So there's some difference in there. But let's say the price spread is like, tell me like 200,000, then very clearly I will go for the 3+ study layout. So that is also one consideration.
Yeah, it's one of the things, I call it like the price disparity of like the tier to tier difference. Like, does it make sense to go to the higher tier instead, since it's already, so close, like the gap, right? So Jesley, maybe you can share with us, like, how do you select like a new launch? Like, what are some factors you will consider?
Okay, so I'll be sharing a bit more on the mode analysis from PLB. It's like a 7-step process to how do we determine like this particular new launch is good or maybe okay kind of project. So I think the most important thing that we talk about, like for momentum, whether it's coming in from the developer, whether it's a TOP effect after 3 years after you get the key, one of the factors that we always consider would be the transformation. So everyone in all the agents' sales kit, right, they always have this transformation part. The transformation will cover your exit audience. They will tell you, oh, look at this, you are under URA master plan. This one next time is going to be a residential plot. When the BTO that time, when the MOP that time, this will be your exit audience. But you need to understand as a consumer, right, when you really enter the new launch, the time frame is really just 3 years or max top 4 years. And when you're looking at the URA space and all this master plan, come and help you.
Oh, no, don't worry. I just...
So we are looking at the master plan itself and all these like residential plots. What is the time frame that you are looking at? What is the time horizon? Even though it can be a residential, it's plotted orange, or it's probably going to be a 40-story. There's going to be influx of a supply for residential. When are they going to be launched? Number one. Is it going to be a BTO? Is it going to be a condo? If let's say it's a BTO in a prime estate, lagi worse. It's going to be hit with a 5-year MOP, or if nowadays got 15 years, right? The
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. Then what your exit audience, maybe you will have the audience, but they cannot exit. Then where is the exit audience? Because there won't be like people coming in to buy your newly TOP
it'll be
projects.
delayed lah. Like, you wait for a whole longer period.
So we need to be very savvy in a way when we talk about transformation. How long of a time frame are you looking at? You want to go into projects whereby there is a shorter growth, not shorter growth. There will be more nearer growth that is coming in the next 3 to 5 years that can directly impact the new launch that you're selecting. Another thing that we want to focus on would be, of course, proximity to the MRT station. Of course, condos that are usually a little bit further from the MRT probably will have a margin that you can enter in. Like there is a disparity for that. But how big of a disparity should you be looking at before you enter that new launch? Number one. Number two would be, there is a new line, right, called the lime green line.
CRL. Cross Island line, right?
Not too bad. Yeah, so it's called the Cross Island line. So I always tell the client it's like a PIE of MRT. So it cuts across from the east all the way to the west. Why am I saying this? Okay, if it's near MRT, it's good. But you need to know what is the time horizon. If let's say you are an investor, you're looking to exit in the next 5 years, you tell me that you want to go in because the Clementi is going to pop up next time. That's the truth. I don't deny that it's going to pop up next time. But just FYI, it's like in 2040. Yeah, so like what is the impact? We will need to look into the proximity and like when exactly the MRT will be popping up together with the TOP of the new launches. So these two are quite important. If I go for something that's more extreme, under the sales kit, there's always these two transformations that pop up. One is called Paya Lebar Air-Based Relocation. This one is a very, very, very long time. I don't deny that it's going to impact the whole estate, the whole of the east side in the very near, not so near far future. Maybe like we're talking about a 30 or 50-year thing. Then as consumer, we will need to take note. If you want the Paya Lebar Air-Based Relocation to directly impact the condo, no, I don't think that's going to happen. The nearer one maybe would be the Greater Water Southern Front. Yeah, the one is already in plans. So if you are interested to know about like this, there are 7 different steps of how to look into what should be a better new launch for you to invest, do come down to Suntec on the 7th of July. We'll have 6 different speakers talking about different frameworks on how to select a good new launch project.
Yeah, actually on the MRT note, I got one last thing I want to share. Like, this is also one of the questions clients like to ask us. Like, should I buy now? Because I heard the MRT is coming. So I asked them, which station are you looking at?
The brown line,
I don't know, brown line or the lime green line, right? So actually the MRT also got different phases, right? And then it will impact that project, that said project differently. So number one, right, the first stage is when the news first announced. Maybe the news announced, but they haven't even tell you they roughly say what stations only, but no completion date. That means the first inkling of this news.
And you also don't know where's the spot, right?
Yeah, you don't even know where's the exit, the entrance. Because usually
need to go and Google,
LTA will plan out. So people will start, I don't know, some forums I've seen, they will start guessing it's because there's this old structure, they're going to remove it or something like that. So there's some speculation. So that's when first round. The second one is when there's a little bit more information released. So maybe after 6 months or 9 months, right, the China news agent announces another piece of news. Hey, this new line, this is what's going to happen. Maybe the station exits start coming out and all that. Second
successful
round.
Tender to the contractor. They are going to start work at 10 year, 10 quarter. Okay.
Correct. Then nearing, so usually at this part, they will also announce completion expected when. Of course, some of them got different phases and all that, right? Then right before, I think the TOP, there'll be another wave in terms of price increment. So we're talking about, when announced, one round. More information, completion date announced, another round. Before completion, one more round. Then when that particular MRT exit or station is active, I think one more round. So there's actually 4 rounds, right? So to answer this question, actually, I think you need to look at which stage are we kind of at, or this condo that you're looking at, this new launch, where in that pipeline is it currently at? Yeah, which I think is quite interesting.
So I think for MRT station is that usually, right, the actual impact for consumers, right, will be felt when the MRT station opens. So now today is 21st of June.
Bayshore MRT, 22nd of June. Yeah, that's the real impact actually. Yeah. The EasyLink card must be able to then the impact
So
starts.
today you can tap already, Today is the preview.
Yeah.
The entire brown line. The entire brown line.
You have free MRT rides.
Yeah. So I think actual day is supposed to be on 23rd. So we have 2 days of free ride. And this will be actually one of the most impact. So because of course, ideally, we want to be able to sell our houses to people who are buying for own stay. They have the most emotional value that they want to tag to that certain location because of proximity to school, parent support, amenities, etc. Right? So when something that can actually be enjoyed, new shopping mall opening. So this will be some of the things that will really uplift the interest of the level. Competition will come in.
Yeah, these are very tangible benefits. You can really feel it already if you are in that area or that living the development.
Yeah. So I will agree with Rong also. So for your 5 different steps of announcement before that MRT it's really opening, right? The real impact it's not when the MRT open, it's when the EasyLink card can be tapped in.
Yeah, I think that will be the most impactful. Really they can feel and use and physically touch it already. Yeah.
I don't deny that there will be some sort of increment in terms of the internal transaction that's happening. Then people flash the news, hey, next time we are going to have a new MRT, please pay a bit more for my unit, something like that. But the most impactful one is really when it's working. So
question, if 80% of households is going to be within walking distance to an MRT station, so the question, is it important to have a MRT to have a profitable new launch investment?
I think the saying now, last time it used to be that location, meaning what if you buy near MRT, you have an advantage. But now I think it's swapped the other way. If you are not near MRT, you become the odd one already. Because of this thing that you mentioned, 80% of the developments are going to be near an MRT. So your question was what again? Sorry.
Is MRT important?
Is MRT important?
Although the three of us don't take, but yes.
Yeah. I think it is important. Whether it is for investment, whether it's for own stay, it's important in a sense. It is definitely one of the most used forms of transport in Singapore. How we get around. Every MRT is packed every single day, even though they're building new lines, right? So it shows a certain level of utilization. The MRT also, I think now this is not just MRT station. Sometimes the MRT brings about other transformations in the area.
Like for example, Marine Parade MRT station, there's going to be this long stretch of underground shopping mall.
Exactly,
So nowadays having a MRT may just mean that all your convenience, all your grocery can be just
increased.
done. Yes, correct. At the station itself.
Even though 80% will have MRT station, I would say that like the growth factor, right, it's not so much on whether you have an MRT or not also. I think if today you are buying for the purpose of rental, you are at the phase where, you want to max out a rental yield, then MRT is important, definitely, because the convenience will make it easier to rent out. Rentability will increase. You have a lesser vacancy, overall better cash flow. If let's say today you're buying for growth, right, I think it still boils down to no MRT and got MRT, right? How much price premium are you actually loading at this point in time, right? So if let's say, like, can you imagine if you are paying, let's say, like, we ballpark, let's say you're paying like 500k more for a unit type. Actually, everything is the same except for MRT location, right? Could you actually save on the 500k and then you can buy a brand new car?
Yeah, so this is how we usually patch our disparity, whether it makes sense or not. Is we need to go and find out the price of a car. Maybe about 200 to 300k for a brand new car. Then you need to compare apple to apple. If let's say similar TOP year, similar size, 3-bedder, 1,000 square feet, then is the disparity at least 300k. If let's say the disparity is maybe 200, then the margin is not there, then perhaps the one with the MRT will make a better sense, because next time when your exit audience come back to you, it's always the ones that is nearer to the MRT that gets looked at first, before the ones away from the MRT.
I got a question on this MRT, right? Do you have clients who tell you that I don't want to live near MRT?
Don't have.
Have.
Yeah, maybe you can share.
Nani?
Why? Who tell you? Why? What's their rationale?
Okay, so like, for example, if let's say MRT, the new ones are underground.
Correct. I knew that was coming.
Older MRT, the
green line,
originals,
the normal green line.
Green line.
East-west
Yeah.
line.
they have the MRT track that is exposed, right? So of course there will be noise also, right? So sometimes like in this kind of line, some people might prefer to be walking distance, but not exactly right beside, because of like the trade-off between convenience and sound. So that could be one. And the other thing is, for example, right, if you are more private person, so not everybody likes to stay near a shopping mall or like an integrated development, right? Because they want that kind of privacy. They want, I come out so many people already, right? So they will want to stay in a more private, secluded kind of area.
Less hustle and bustle. Less hustle and bustle one.
Yeah, so I think it really depends on your stage of life. You want different things. If today you are trying to fight for your career and you want to make use of every single time that you have, then convenience will be very, very high importance. Right? You have like young family members, convenience will be very high important. But if today you are retired and you want to enjoy that kind of like slower pace, you will look for things like maybe like seaside living.
在 Loyang, got nobody one. Nobody will disturb me. It's closer to the airport.
Yeah. Then like
easy to escape.
Then like you want like you don't want your family members to come and visit you. So you purposely choose somewhere that is not so easy to access to. Then they won't come and visit you, man. They won't. Family gatherings will always happen at the biggest house or the most convenient house.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, last question on the MRT, right? There are some condos, I think in the Commonwealth area, I think Queen Street or Commonwealth Tower. Some people say when they stay there, they can feel the shaking. Is it? Have you all been to those developments?
The vibration.
How is it like? Is it because they are on the same level, or it doesn't matter because the project is just so close to the MRT station that
I think it's just proximity, not same level even. Like, do you feel the? I don't know what to call it, the vibrations.
I don't feel it. I mean, when I'm selling Commonwealth Towers, of course, like you can hear the vibration because of like the track and the MRT interaction. But I don't feel like my building is shaking.
Okay.
Yeah, feeling it is a little bit too extreme. But hearing it is quite common.
Yeah. Because it's a legit question that I got from a client before. Like, hey, this kind of exposed one, right? The open air MRTs, the developments around, is it true that you will feel the shaking? Yeah, the noise, he or she is aware, but they're asking like to the extent that you feel like your furniture will start, like maybe your chair will start moving or something.
This one will only happen to like other countries, like 火车, they really use the wheel,
steam engine,
the charcoal
steam engine,
coal,
because of the vibration of the engine, then you will feel that kind of impact.
Okay.
But
so we need to analyze trains also now.
Yes,
okay,
correct.
I think let's say it's like like those kind of like old windows. Then maybe like yes,
rattle,
like because of like, and then I think like for the human beings, I think it's like your own like molecules and atoms in your body, right? The different kind of like spacing that you have. So if you are very close, then you'll feel the vibration.
Now we need to be a doctor.
I'm just joking, by the way.
No, but have you seen those like exposed MRT tracks? They actually have barriers. So maybe what you say is true, that like certain level, because of the proximity to the tracks, maybe the window did shake, something like that. Like not enough oil or something like that. Then the window on the balcony door start to like vibrate. Maybe that's why they put all the barriers.
Okay. I mean, personally, I live near an exposed MRT track along the red line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can hear the MRT, but I don't feel it lah. But I'm not that near. It's still, I don't know, maybe like 1 kilometer away or something. Okay, maybe not 1 kilometer lah. 500 meters. Yeah, but I can hear it lah. I can definitely hear it. Yeah.
Imagine 1 kilometer away and then you feel
it's like quite far. Earthquake already.
That one is a high-speed rail. High-speed rail coming through.
Yes, producer. Yeah, I feel like we are doing a wrestling show, right? And then like you are saying, okay, do this move now.
Hi, chop, slam down.
Okay. So previously, George and myself, we have already shared what our anticipated launches from a preference standpoint or from investment standpoint. So maybe each of y'all can share one new launch that you are anticipating that is upcoming this year.
The one that I'm anticipating most, and I just brought my client to buy one of the resale project nearby, is at former Chuan Park. It's at Lorong Chuan MRT station. Why I'm excited about it, I think number one, the land plot is huge. Like I'm expecting the developers to have maybe 800. I think there is an estimated units, 800 to 1,000, something like that. It's a huge development. It's near International Australian School. It's near the Nanyang JC also. I feel like there has been a little bit overdeveloped, that it needs a new insert of supply for residential. And with that on block being successful, then I can expect maybe resale projects like Spring Bloom. 旁边还有一个什么 Chiltern Park. The Chiltern Park. The Chiltern Park. Then those resale projects, maybe will get a bit more eyeball from this new launch.
Okay. My choice is, actually I'm not a West person, but because recently I was doing new launch banter for Sora. So Sora is quite interesting. I mean the West is quite, I think there's also a lack of new launch projects there. Not even new launch, like even condo projects. There's only like 20 plus projects in the entire Jurong East, Jurong West, to support, all those, the population that's living there. The second thing is because I think let's say you want like water body views, right? Water body meaning it doesn't have to be ocean. As long as I see water, it's considered water body view. So like this one is a lake view. In the OCR region, I think it's also something very rare to have. Like if you look at the east side, you want views, you usually have to go to Pasir Ris or the Loyang area or East Coast. But most of these come with the East Coast usually is definitely ECP. You will definitely get the road noise as well. Yeah, so in Jurong, you get to get water body like lake views. Plus this development 28 stacks, right? 22 stacks face the lake. I think it's very rare. And my favorite unit type, actually, I was analyzing all different floor plans, right? Is the 4-bedder. Yeah, the 4-bedder has actually 3 en-suites. That means it's not just master, junior master. It has another ensuite also, which is a Jack and Jill. So technically got 3 rooms that are ensuite, which I think is great. Like it's very rare to find 4-bedder, 3 ensuite, comes with private lift some more. Yeah. So that was my pick actually for Sora also.
So for Sora, right, if let's say you mentioned that like 22 stacks are facing the lake, right, would it make sense to buy a non-lake facing unit at Sora?
I think it comes back to our discussion earlier. So actually, if we sum up our entire discussion of 1.5 hours or more, right, so far, actually everything is tagged to the price. That means if you're analyzing stack analysis, you also have to bring in the price. You're analyzing floor plan, you also have to talk to the price. So the entire thing is all about, I think, trying to find multiple layers of disparity. It's like building a moat. That's why we call our analysis moat analysis. So we are playing the defensive game while being aggressive. That means the more levels of disparity effect you have, the thicker the moat is. It means that even in a non-bull market, a certain project should have a high potential of growth. Yeah. So
there needs to be a disparity between those facing the lake and then those not facing the lake. Definitely will have. If not, the project will not move. And there will definitely be people who are okay with not having the lake view because maybe they are so familiar with it or they have been staying there the entire life. You want to see the lake, you just go down, walk 5 minutes, then you see the lake.
Because the
Feng Shui master say cannot have water.
Unless they are
too much water.
against water or what, 不可以有水 element 的. But anyway, the project it's like if I recall, on the top level is interjoined between two blocks. So you have a huge like terrace garden, rooftop garden kind of thing. Then I think in the middle on the 14th story, if I recall, there's also another one. So you want to enjoy the lake. Sometimes we also share our bias. If the disparity is so huge between the HDB facing versus the lake, and also I think it boils down to the quantum, because I think Sora's pricing, 3-bedder, I think it's going to start at like 2 mil at least. Right? So if let's say that's your budget and you still want to enter, okay, so I just remember this on the top of my mind. So if you want lake facing, right, minimally you got to go for a 2+ study. That means the 1+ study don't have. The normal 2-bedder also no lake facing. So I think it also boils down to your type. If you're just going to buy a normal 2-bedder, then it's going to face the opposite side of the lake. There is no lake facing. Yeah.
So they reserve the best units for the bigger bedroom types.
Yeah.
And I think like one of the highlights of like a new launch is also like number one, facilities are getting more fancy. The architecture is getting more and more
creative,
magnificent.
This one is like very, like I think you were saying earlier, it's called the what? Heaven's Gate or Baldur's what?
Feels like a Heaven's Gate. I mean like you know, like kind of a game like that, right? Then you have like this huge iconic like gate kind of architecture. I think it's very iconic. Like when you drive past, you will definitely notice it. It will become an icon in that landscape. And that is also important because it will also drive demand and interest. Like when you keep driving and you're like, hey, I keep having to see, what is this project?
Sora.
Yeah, it's a branding of its own. Just by looking at architecture, it's branding. Yeah, like I had this client who only will buy architectural, like non-cookie cutter type of condo projects. That means it must look vastly different one. Exactly. So he moved from interlace to reflections.
Oh my god, that's exactly what I just said.
Yeah, interlace to reflections. Yeah, he didn't. I mean, for his own personal reasons, Yeah, but yeah, that was his criteria when he was selecting a unit. So actually, not many in Singapore, which there's only those people, right?
But I would think like moving forward in the trend for the next 5 years, definitely I think like there will be more towards this kind of direction where like there will be focus a little bit more on like the facade to make it a bit more interesting, to have some form of uniqueness. I think that's good for everybody.
Yeah, it creates a certain level of USP just by how it looks like aesthetically and architecturally. Okay, the last thing I think about Sora is just like you were talking about that gate thing, right? The reason I think why they have done it that way is that the blocks are also very interesting one. There's 2 taller blocks of 20 stories. Then the other 2 blocks are shorter. They're like 12 stories only, but they are both interlinked at the top. Yeah, so quite interesting look. I think if you drive by, you will see like a huge N and a small N. I don't know. Like, that's
you can capture the wind in between.
Yeah, I think like in the Lentor projects, I believe last time we were analyzing Lentor area, there was actually a plan to study the wind and how they built the developments, like the wind flow. I believe it was Wayne that was sharing. Yeah, quite interesting. All the new developments. Yeah. Okay. Shall we wrap up? Okay. All right. So I think we have talked so much today about new launches, how to technically analyze all these new launches using disparity gaps, using frameworks, using all these different kind of analytical tools, right? Even our mode analysis, right? So a quick shout out, right? So we are actually, PLB is holding its first ever new launch convention 2024 on 7th of July. It's Sunday, I believe. So if you want to check out 80 new launches, basically almost all the new launches in Singapore will be present at this convention. You can come down, whether you are looking for something to purchase or whether you just want to learn more about new launches, how we deep dive and analyze new launches, you can head on down, right?
So you're looking for something that's very impactful, straight to the point with graphs, charts, case study examples that will be shown while our keynote speakers are sharing. Then we will see you there at our new launch convention.
If having a new launch is something in your pipeline, if you're looking for this as part of your property portfolio, then do come down to this new launch convention.
There'll be 6 different people who are speaking as well. Oh yeah, one last thing. In fact, I think we're going to classify, right, according to zones. That means if you are looking for something in the east, maybe you already stay in the east, right, you can go there and look at all the east properties. We are westy. All the west properties will be there as well, and north and central and south as well.
東南西北, we got you covered.
All right, so we're signing off. So I hope this was a useful episode for you, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
I should look at the camera. I keep thinking this is the camera.
Which one is the camera?
The one with the arrow. I just realized the arrow is there. Oh man. Never mind, we just side profile.